As the saying goes in New York, if I can make it here, I can make it anywhere. Hey friends, welcome to the channel. I'm Tirso and I'm a creative director no longer based in New York City. I finally did it. I left, sort of. I have things in storage and I do plan to move back at some point, but the timeline is just open-ended. For now, I just want to travel and explore different cities, which can pose a challenge when it comes to recording YouTube content. Right now, I'm in Miami and at least I found an Airbnb that has decent lighting. In theory, this decision should be a little bit scary, but as the saying goes in New York, if I can make it here, I can make it anywhere. As much as I create content on the channel for you, I do treat the channel as part of my own journey, so I wanted to talk about my time in New York City. Honestly, when I first moved to New York City, yes, I wanted to work in magazine publishing, but my goals were much simpler than climbing the corporate ladder. I don't know if you've seen the movie How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. It's not exactly Oscar-worthy. There is the main rom-com storyline, but I was more interested in their lifestyle. They enjoyed different restaurants. She always had tickets to the Knicks games. They attended company events. It was glamorous, but in an achievable way. That was a lifestyle I wanted to build for myself in New York, and I did. I've eaten a lot of delicious meals at restaurants, but I've also cooked a lot. If you follow me on Instagram, you've seen all the things. I didn't go to the Knicks games, but as a tennis player, I have gone to Roland Garros, Wimbledon, and the US Open. I'll make it to the Australian Open at some point, maybe. I've gone to a lot of industry events. Working in fashion, I got to go to New York Fashion Week. This was Marc Jacobs at Fashion's Night Out. As obsessed as I was with GQ, I bought a bracelet that night with the logo letters connecting. Might be lame to others, but very special to me. This is Serena Williams at the Taste of Tennis, Norman Reedus at the Wired store, and later on, events where I led the design for. This is Tommy Hilfiger at the Fairchild Fashion Museum and the Hiltons at the FMAAs. I was the art director for the Footwear News Awards in 2014. I saw that Stan Smith was on the guest list, so I bought a brand new pair of Stan Smiths that I was hoping he would sign. On the day of the event, I caught food poisoning, so I didn't get to go. It's okay, the universe came full circle, and in 2022, I led design for the award show again. Surprisingly, he was on the guest list. It is not in my nature as an introvert to just go up to anyone, so I grabbed a Negroni for some liquid courage, and I finally got to meet him. I think it's so funny that a lot of people think he's just a shoe. Absolutely, this was a highlight reel. I wouldn't often do this, but New York City is such a grind that it's hard to celebrate those moments along the way. It's been a wild ride, but a wonderful one, and I am extremely grateful for that. I very much fear danger, and New York City has a lot of people, so the first thing I'm going to miss is having witnesses. Eating delicious food at every price point. Respectfully, other cities have good food available, but it's just not on the level of the food scene in New York City, unless, in my opinion, you are in Tokyo, Mexico City, or San Sebastian. Playing tennis at the National Tennis Center. This was one of the coolest things I ever did, was play tennis on the US Open courts. Never on Arthur Ashe, but still a cool experience, and I was a regular. I already miss the accessibility of the city. I guess it depends on where you live, but I was able to get to most places pretty easily. Europe is also very accessible because flights are cheaper from New York, so Europe ended up becoming a weekend trip. True story, I have spent more time in Paris than I have spent in Brooklyn. Last, I'm gonna miss hating the city. Locally, we complain to each other and bond in misery. To everyone else, it is the greatest city in the world. The unidentifiable smells and substances. Like I said, we hate the city. Violence. It's been a while, but I was on the 2 train platform in Times Square when that pipe bomb went off. I was at the Whole Foods across the street when the guy ran over the people on the West Side Highway. Obviously I'm fine, but it was always a concern in New York City that anything can happen. I'm definitely not gonna miss toxic corporate work culture, which is probably everywhere. If anything, my decision to leave is simply taking a break from that. I can't actually claim that I don't work in corporate anymore because all of my clients are corporations, but now I get to decide what I want to do and what I don't. I always think of that woman in Mrs. Doubtfire.
I don't do laundry, I don't do windows, I don't do carpet.
For me, I don't do meetings, I don't work during work hours, and I don't work in the office. Pay New York rent. I'm remote, so why pay rent in the city if I don't have an office to go to? When you think you're on top of the world, do not go running on the West Side Highway because your ego will crumble faster than a Nature Valley granola bar, and that's fast. The crosswalk signs are simply a suggestion. In an apartment listing, charming means small, cozy is smaller than charming, up and coming means it's a construction zone, and newly renovated means they painted over the old problems. When people asked to put all the lunatics on an island, they did. It's called Manhattan. The realest New Yorkers will give you the absolute best life advice, even though their world is completely falling apart. If you ask me how I feel about New York on a deeper level, New York City is one giant contradiction. You will make a lot of money, but still feel broke at the same time. In a similar sentiment, you are surrounded by wealth, yet reminded of poverty. The moments you want to celebrate coexist with moments of deep struggle. And in the same space that you are scared of being attacked, you can share a smile with a stranger. It has been such an interesting way of being, but there are good things from the city. Some of the things that we take for granted are what makes the city special. We avoid Times Square at all costs, but how magical are the faces when people see it for the first time? Even though expenses are high, what the city has to offer ends up becoming the second paycheck. Part of those unidentifiable smells are delicious food, which ends up serving as an invitation to try a new restaurant. There are also a lot of moments that pay your soul in ways that no paycheck could ever. I remember in 2018, A Star is Born came out. I was in Washington Square Park, and one of those lunatics that I mentioned was singing Shallow pretty badly at the top of his lungs. All of a sudden, we all started singing, and it wasn't a flash mob. It was just 100 strangers speaking the same language called music. That was one of my favorite moments, and I still think about it to this day. That's a recap of my time in New York. A wise friend once told me that when you leave somewhere, a place, a job, whatever have you, you are either running from or running towards something. It has been 14 years, and it is time for me to run towards this new era where I explore opportunities outside of New York City. Like I said, I very much intend to settle back when the time feels right. I don't have an order of a list of cities right now, but wherever I end up, I'll see you there.